I wish to demonstrate the new Ordinances Ready feature using your laptop computer. Most discussions around Ordinances Ready these days are designed to point out the power of the personal phone, a cell phone, whether it's an Android or an Apple. But I find, as wonderful as Family Search has made the apps, the Family Tree app on the phone, it's still unwieldy for me in comparison to using my personal computer. And so I suspect there's a lot of people who would prefer to do their family history work on the computer still, even when it comes to printing your cards, and especially when it comes to looking at the person page of the individual you're considering taking to the temple. It's so much easier on the computer. So if you're going to use the Ordinances Ready to try to find somebody to take to the temple, you would sign on to your to Family Search. And once your account is open for you, you would come over to the Temple tab. And when you click on the Temple tab or hover over it, you have these options, and you go to the very bottom option, which is Ordinances Ready. When you click Ordinances Ready, then it will come up and let you select what kind of ordinance you're wanting to begin with. Am I getting ready to go do baptisms or these other ordinances? And so if I click Baptism and Confirmation, the computer will go and search for different people that need baptisms. It found 4 that quickly for me. Then all I need to do is click View People, and the people that that it's identified will pop up. Now, I can't help but remind you that it's important for you to take a look at each individual's person page before you take them to the temple. I would never just automatically take these 4 and click Take to the Temple. Now, since it is from the temple, I don't feel as guilty doing that, because whoever else was going to go and do it at the temple wouldn't have looked at the person page, and so that's the level of scrutiny that they would have had. But since I'm able to, I just never take somebody to the temple without first looking at their person page. So for instance, with Edgar Davis, I will right-click on his name and open the link in a new tab. The reason that I'm doing this is because if I don't, and I were to just click on his name and it left on this page, when I came back, my people would be lost. And I've found that sometimes when I request new baptism and confirmations, they find different people rather than the same ones that I had. So this keeps it locked in for me for when I want to print it. And I'll show you another reason. When you go to his person page and you click on the Ordinances tab, you'll notice that the ordinances are all here for somebody has shared it with the temple. But the thing is even though I'm going to be able to take this person to the temple, I can't take them to the temple from this page. I have to go back and then request it here for them to disconnect it from the temple and allow me to have access to it. So that's why it's really important for me to leave this page open and go to the person page as another link. As I go in and look at this, just real quickly, this is the kind of thing I always do. Edgar N. Davis, I want to look at his sources first of all. I've got 4 of them, a 1910, a 1920, 30, and 40 census for him. And then when I look at, just to kind of get myself familiarized with him, if I come down and look at the person, the family information, I see that he had one wife who was born in 1898, and he had another wife who was born in 1877. I don't have the marriage dates for either one of them. I've got one son here, and I have 2 sons here, Howard and Wayne. And so then when I come back up here, if I want to, I can click these record hints, and they'll tell me that Sarah is the mother of Neil, and then I've got a marriage date for Neil on this, and the spouse for Neil. This one tells me that Abby C. Brooks is the wife of Edgar N. Davis, and they were married on 10 April 1901. So with this piece of information, I definitely want to attach this one, because it's going to help me with that Abby that I've got. You'll notice down here all I had was Abby. This gives me Abby C. Brooks, and it also gives me the marriage date. So at this point, I'm going to say Edgar. The reason I want to attach it is because it verifies the birth and marriage information. And then I'm going to attach it. Then the important one is this one, Abby. Because I didn't have a marriage date, I can swing this over and add it without having to do anything manually. And I just need to remember that it's Abby C. Brooks and change Abby's name to Abby C. Brooks. And I didn't have these two parents, and so I can add them, A.L. Davis, and I don't have a birth date or birthplace, but they are deceased because Edgar and Abby are born in the late 1800s. So I click that and I create a new person. And A.L. Davis comes up, and it doesn't verify his birth or marriage information. It just verifies family information. And so I will change that to family and then put that in there. And now I also want to put the mother in, and she's listed right there. I have to say that she's deceased, and I create her, and then I attach it. So I attached 4 sources that easily. I just need to remember now to come down and open up Abby real quickly. I'll do that in a new link. And I'm going to change her name, and it's right there, Abby C. Brooks, and so I'm going to put Abby C, and then here I'm going to put Brooks, and then I'm going to say here, verified on marriage record. And then I will save it. And so while that wasn't huge, when I go to seal Edgar to Abby, I now have this marriage information, the date and place, and I've got instead of it just being Abby, it'll be Abby C. Brooks. I always like to standardize, and so I would quickly come here, edit this, and then I would put my cursor at the end of that, put in a space, and then the computer offers me there we go. The computer offers me the correct standard, and I change it to that. This one already is standardized, and so then I just say standardized. And now everything is right with that, and I'm going to now go back to Edgar, and I can just go to this one that we already had. I probably ought to refresh the page, and you'll notice I've got the parents of Edgar that we've added there. I've got his 2 wives, Abby, who was his first wife before she was down below. Now before we leave this, let's just see if we can find one more thing, and that's the marriage information between Edgar and Sarah. Sarah or Sadie. I think one of the things that we forget to do sometimes is go to the other person involved in the information we're trying to find. And so I'm going to change from Edgar, who I haven't really come across much for in terms of marriage information about Sarah, and I'm going to go to Sarah. So when I click on her and I right click and open her in a new link, we'll just spend a moment on her person page, and you'll notice that she's got 6 sources. And if I look at those sources, 1900, 1910, 1930, 1940 census, and then there's a death record for her son, and there's a find a grave for her. I want to just show you this find a grave quickly. The interesting thing about it, find a grave, you can look at the indexed information, and that's nice, but if you go to the actual site, sometimes there's some hidden nuggets there that are awfully nice, and in this case there really is. We've got a picture of the tombstone for, if you look closely, you've got Edgar with Abby and Sarah, and then it has their birth and death dates. But what a neat thing to have all 3 of them on there. This certainly validates that he was married to both of them at different times. And so I like that source, but what I wanted to especially show you real quickly in terms of what we're doing is this marriage record that's waiting on Sarah's person page, but not waiting on her husband Edgar's. So if I click this, it says that Edgar N. Davis and Sadie, and she must have been called Sadie as a nickname, but Sarah being her formal name, we're going to go ahead and attach this. And so when we get to the record, you'll notice that it verifies the birth date and place. And so we'll go ahead and say verifies birth and marriage information, and then attach that. And so for Sadie or Sarah, we've got that. But then when we come down here, this is the important thing. We have the marriage information, and we will swing that across, add it to Edgar's information, and I can just click attach. And then when I come back to Sarah, we have the date now added in for the marriage between her and Edgar. And if I return to Edgar's person page, I now have him having a date for marriage to Abby and a date for marriage to Sarah or Sadie, and I've got the parents that I didn't have before. All of that's been added by me spending a little bit of time and just using record hints that were available or sources that were already on the person page. And so that demonstrates the importance of not just automatically taking them to the temple. And then at this point, normally I would go here to request ordinances, but I need to go back to the one to here. And since I haven't done these others, I will just turn them off, and I'll take that one person to the temple. And then what I do is I click continue here, and then it will print my card for me with his baptism and confirmation opportunity on it. And that's all you have to do to go through and use Ordinances Ready and be able to find people to take to the temple.